Hello everyone, it's Luli and today I will be doing a review video on Cupid Parasite. Now this game is an Otome game that's I think going to be released this autumn sometime. I don't think they've given, like actual dates or anything, but I'm really looking forward to it because I have played this game before when it got released in Japanese and it is one of my favourites, so I'm going to struggle being objective with this review. But before I start, I'd like to note that although I would not consider any of what I include in this video as spoilers, I'm aware that some people consider different things as spoilers, so I'll note that basically I'll be including, I won't be including even CGs or plot spoilers or character spoilers. However, if you're the type of person that doesn't even want to know, what the character looks like or anything like that, then I would swiftly move on. But anyway, let me start. As always, I will go through the plot, then I'll kind of quickly go through the system, so like how long the routes take, different features about it. Then I'll go through each of the characters, and then I will say who I would and would not recommend it to, and then finally give rating as well as my general thoughts. But anyway, let me start. So firstly, the plot is that there is Cupid, which is the main character, and she's seeing basically rates of marriage go down, and she's firing her arrow at as many people as possible. And yet, they come together, but then for different reasons they end up breaking up and it doesn't lead to marriage, and her father's telling her off, and she's like, God, but I'm trying my best but it's not working. But anyway, then she discovers that in the human world there are humans that also help matchmake people. Like there's a whole matchmaking company, that help people find love, that sort of thing. And she goes, oh, okay, so humans can do it too. And then she learns more and more about humans and the technology and the things that are in the human world. And then she says, you know what, I think humans can do it, so I want to go down as a human and live a human life and show the gods that humans can matchmake perfectly as well as Cupid herself. And her father's really really not for this, and he's like, no, you have to stay in the god world and gods are better than humans and all this sort of thing. And either way, she goes down, and the promise is that she will basically go down to the human world and prove to her father that humans can matchmake perfectly well by working as a human in a corporate this company called Cupid Corporation. And basically she's going to try and climb the ladder to show her that she doesn't need her bow and arrow to bring people together. And as much as the father's against it, she's like, no, I'm doing this, and she goes down to the human world. Now, a few years go by, and she's finally employed in Cupid Corporation, and she's working as a matchmaker. One day, the CEO basically calls her to his office, and he's like, well, actually, I've got a job for you, and if you complete this mission, I will give you a promotion. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to do my best. And that mission is that she has to matchmake these 5 incredibly difficult to matchmake people. They're called the Parasite 5. And basically, for various reasons, all the other employees have struggled to matchmake them with anyone, and they all have their various different reasons, which I will go on to when I introduce each character. But that's sort of the plot, and basically it's like her and one of the parasites, how they develop type of thing and interact with other, in an attempt to matchmake those parasites basically. And it's a great comedy game. There's quite a few moments where it gives me moments of laughter and chuckles. But anyway, let me move on to the system. So I think it took me it's quite a long game. It took me, I think, probably maybe 5 to 6 hours for the common route, and then maybe 7 or 8 hours per character. And so there's 5 characters as well as a truth route, so in total there's 6 routes. It probably took me about 60 hours to complete, 70, bearing in mind this is however in Japanese, which I don't know whether I tend to be quick at completing Japanese games because I can scan read quickly, so I don't know, but I would say it's quite a long game. Maybe I'm trying to think, it's hard to compare because it's been a while, but maybe Pure Fiore type of thing, maybe a bit longer. But it was one of those games that was long, but I was glad it was long. I didn't want it to end. When it ended, I was really sad. So in know it's a good thing. Now there's also the love capture system, where whenever you pick the correct choice, it comes up with like this, I think a heart or something pops up that shows that you've picked the correct answer, which makes obviously completing it easy. You don't need a walkthrough type thing, because you just know which option to go for if you want the good ending. There aren't really any bad endings per se. There's supposedly bad endings, but maybe more like normal endings, because the good endings are obviously happily ever afters, but some of the normal endings are just funny. You're like, how did this happen? In a good way. It's just funny, and it's a happy, it's still happy, just they may not be a couple, or they are but it's turned out funny, or I'm not gonna give any examples because that would be spoilers, but my point is you don't need to worry about ending up in the bad ending with this game. It's not one of those games where you have to be scared almost and like hesitant and worried that you're gonna end up in the bad ending. Even if you end up in the bad ending, it's a normal ending, so much so that you look at it and go, ah, that's funny, and it adds more to it. It's good. So you don't need to worry about that. And I think that's it with the system. Yeah. So let me continue on to the character description. So there are 5 parasites. You've got the lovelorn parasite. You've got the prestige parasite. You've got the... I'll explain what the parasite means in a moment. You've got the glamour parasite, you've got the obsessed parasite, and you've got the thieving parasite. At least that's what they've explained it in English. Now the first one is lovelorn parasite. This is Gil. He's a writer, and basically the issue with him is that he's hung up on a girl that he, I guess, still likes, and he's like so in love with her, and he just can't get over her, that whenever you try to matchmake him, he's like, oh, the hair's not quite right, or the personality is not quite right, because he's constantly comparing anyone with this girl that he's still basically in love with. So it's kind of like, Gil, you need to move on, or you can't find anyone. And so whenever you're playing the route and you're trying to matchmake, he's always like, oh, they're nice, but, I mean, they're cute, but, and he always has a reason as to why they're not, like, the one, because they're not the girl that he's still in love with. And, I mean, it seems sad, but it's kind of funny, because you're like, oh gosh, Gil, what are you doing? You know? And actually, he happens to be an acquaintance of Lynette, so Cupid's human name is Lynette, that's the main character, and they happen to know each other. And so when Lynette is introduced to the Parasite 5, she's like, oh my gosh, Gil, I didn't think I'd see you again here, because they used to go to uni together, and it is funny, and he's a little bit socially awkward, but he is really cute, you know, with his little glasses and his cute little nerd adorableness going on, and yeah, it's interesting to see how he develops. The next one I completed was, I can't remember if it was Yuki or Rao, so I'm just gonna go with Yuki. Yuki is the glamour parasite. He is a famous designer, and basically his issue is he's so obsessed with how people look, like their appearances, so you know, like their makeup, how they've done their hair, how they look after their skin and that sort of thing, what they wear, you know. And it's kind of funny because he always allocates, you know, those codes you get, like hashtag 6AB499 or whatever, you know, those like color codes. He basically, whenever he meets someone, he says a code, like a color code. And honestly, through his route, I had my phone out and was like, oh, what's this color code, to see what color that he just says. And he's sort of like a genius designer person that can tell the difference between very subtle color differences. And what's interesting is, depending on what color code he gives you, it's like how pretty you are. So a really pretty color, if he gives you a really pretty color, it means that he thinks you're very attractive. Whereas if you get something like brown or grey or something, then he doesn't really find you particularly appealing. And what's worse is if you're a color that's ugly, he just, or any person that hasn't put effort in, he just doesn't notice that they're there. So he just doesn't acknowledge them. And that becomes a bit of a problem when you're trying to matchmate, because he's so picky. He's like, they're not good enough, they're not good enough, they're not good enough. And basically the reason why he's trying to matchmake is because his older sister tells him that he needs to fall in love to improve as a fashion designer or something, and yeah, that's why. But it proves to be difficult that to find him a partner, because some people he just doesn't even realize they're that, because to him they're not appealing, they're not pretty. And it's quite funny because he has this spray that makes you know, moisturizing spray. Every now and then he's like which makes me laugh. But yeah, so that's Yuki. Third one was Raoul, which is the obsessed parasite. So Raoul is an action actor, a star type person. So he's starred in multiple action movies. And basically he has enrolled into Cupid Corporation to matchmake in order to experience love, because what's happened is that he's going to be starring in a romance movie next. However, he's never fallen in love before or experienced any sort of romance, so he can't really act that being in love bits very well. So his agency was like, right, you're gonna have to matchmake and try and find a partner or experience romance in some way or another, or you're not gonna do a very good job. Now the issue is, as attractive as he looks, and out of all of them he is my type looks wise, because you know, he's like big and I don't know, I'm basic like that. And the issue is he is obsessed with Greek mythology, and I mean like obsessed. Any conversation somehow turns into Greek mythology conversation, and it's so weird because looks wise he's like this really hot jock guy, and then but he won't shut up about, he's like a complete nerd about Greek mythology. And that becomes a problem because, you know, when they have these matchmaking parties, they matchmake and he will not shut up about Greek mythology, and the girl's like kind of bored and he's still like, no, this and that and that. And I think he gets very excited when he speaks to Lynette, because obviously her being Cupid, you know, they have a conversation about Greek mythology and he gets very excited, so it is kind of cute. But yeah, so that's the issue with him, he can't stop talking about Greek mythology and people get bored, and yeah, no. But his route is interesting because of the way he develops too, because, you know, initially he just has no interest in romance or love or anything like that. It's and obviously that's a problem too, because that's the whole point of matchmaking, right? You need to have that you want to type of thing. Now the fourth one I completed was Shelby, and I'm gonna say his last name too because it makes me laugh. Shelby Snail. God knows what these people were thinking when they gave this character a name, but Shelby I understand, but Snail? Like, anyway, whatever. He is the prestige parasite, and he is the CEO of Cupid Corporation, who's the one, you know, that asks Lynette to come to his office to matchmake these Parasite 5, and he's one of them because he's a prestige parasite, and basically he's not interested in marrying at all. The reason why he's, you know, enrolled in Cupid Corporation to matchmake is because as the CEO of a matchmaking company, it's kind of weird to not be married, like, and also they've released, you know, this image that he's a happily married man and all this, but people are starting to be a bit suspicious because whenever there are dinner parties or whatever parties, he never brings his non-existent wife even, to these dinner parties or parties, so there's a lot of suspicion as to whether he's married or not. And he understands that that could really affect his company, which is why he wants to find a wife. But because he's only doing it for the reputation of himself and ensuring the company it remains stable and all of this, it doesn't really work because he tries to keep it a secret throughout, so none of the potential matches get to see him, and he doesn't really want, as I said, he's not interested in marriage, so it's all like, as long as she's pretty and nice and exists, that's all that matters. It's just a bit, it doesn't make any sense. But as a character, he's so cute because he's a kudere character, and I feel like he's not used to women. Like, he gives off this vibe that he's used to women and is really cool. I mean, he's, you know, a CEO, he can do work really well, and he's like good at everything. But like, I guess because he isn't interested in like romance or anything, the way he behaves around Lynette it's cute. And normally I don't like queer characters, but Shelby was a great exception. I thought he was cute throughout the whole route, you know, and it made me like laugh and grin so much how he thinks Lynette doesn't know, or you know, I think Lynette finds out eventually. You as a person immediately knows, you know, the moment the Cupid, like the Parasite 5 appear, you're like, yeah, that's Shelby, just, you know, he's hiding his identity, but you know immediately. And then you see Lynette gradually find out, and it's kind of funny because I think she goes along with the fact that they don't know, you know, and it is cute seeing them like interact. He's a good character actually. Now the fifth one, the last but not least, and you really want to play him last, by the way. You want to play the other characters and then play Alan last, because he is probably the most mysterious out of all the characters, and you learn a lot about you learn a lot in his route that I think is best left till the last. Now he is the thieving parasite, I believe, and now the issue with him is that he's only interested in women who already have a partner. Now I don't think he really says why he's enrolled in Cupid Corporation, but you do find out later down the lines, and but yeah, it becomes an issue because he just shows no interest in women who are single, which they have to be if you're, you know, matchmaking. And he constantly gets these calls from, you know, the boyfriends of the girls he's like slept with or done whatever with, and then they're like, oh, how dare you steal my girlfriend, and you know, he's like, what are you talking about, I only borrowed her. And it's like, oh god, what are you doing, Alan? And throughout the whole route, you know, Lynette's like, you can't go for people who have a partner, you have to go for someone who's like on their own. He's like, oh, but that's so boring. And yeah, and it's good though. Normally I don't like, I think I had a friend who was a bit worried about his route because she doesn't like player characters. And I gave her a quick like summary of what happened and what happens, you know, spoilers. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, I want to play him. So for both Raoul and Alan, I don't think it was that bad in the sense that, because I don't like player characters either, at least not route-wise. As characters I like them, but route-wise I'm not too fond, because you always get that, you know, there's the other girl and it's just like all this uncomfortable feeling. But with those two, although they're like players, they're not really, because Raoul's just not into like romance at all. It just, things happen because he's a famous actor. And then as for Alan, he's just, yeah, I don't know, I won't say why, but because it would be spoilerish, but yeah. Oh, and I just wanted to mention that he works as a pillow seller, which is pretty random. And yeah, I know, I think that's how he meets girls with partners, because the girl comes along, he's like, oh, let me choose a pillow for you, and it's almost like there's this weirdness about it. But so those are the 5 characters, and they all have their own quirks, which makes the game so funny. But anyway, let me move on to who I would and would not recommend this game to. So I would recommend this game to those who want comedy, 100%. If you want comedy, like a rom-com type game, then I 100% recommend this game to you. And especially because, as I said, there aren't really any bad endings. They're like normal endings, so you can really relax when you're playing it. Initially, so whenever I play a game, in the back of my mind, I'm always a tiny bit worried. Like, what if I do come across a bad ending, or what if the bad ending is really horrible and it hurts me? And although over the years, like, I have grown a heart of steel and bad endings don't affect me so much anymore, even I have that in the back of my mind. This game, I've never felt so relaxed playing a game, because after encountering a couple of, like, going through a couple of bad endings, like normal endings, I was like, oh, this isn't bad at all. So when I'm playing it, I'm just enjoying it. I'm so relaxed. I'm not thinking, oh no, what if? It's just, yeah, play it. It's all great. So if you like a rom-com and you want something relaxing to play, like you're fed up of all the serious, plot-heavy craziness, then I would 100% go for it. If you like incredibly bright, garish colours, I would go for it. And if you just like quirky characters and sort of seeing the characters develop together, more so than a heavy plot, then I would recommend this game too. Although there is sort of an element of a plot in it. I would also recommend it to those who like a modern office setting. So modern office setting, but again, funny. So it's kind of, you have these moments like things that happen at uni or in the office where you're like, oh, I can sort of relate to that, and I like that sort of thing. I think it's quite fun. And yeah, what else? Oh yes, and also if you want a Western aesthetic, because it's based in Los Angeles, which I think is a combination of Los Angeles and New York, so it's Los An York. And the whole aesthetic is very like New York / Los Angeles type thing, where when you click the menu, you know, like it honks like a taxi. Like there's little details like that which make it really cutesy and fun, and I really liked it. However, some people did mention that the colours are too bright in their face, that's their eyes. So I don't know, I guess that's sort of like, depends on who you are. Now, who would I not recommend it to? I would not recommend it to those who really want like a serious, sad, tragic title, you know. If you're looking for something that's gonna make you cry, or it's like really angsty, or it's really serious, I would go for something more like Pio Fiore or Cafe Enchante, or, you know, games where it's more plot based and more like, it's not so comedy, but you know, it's something more harsh. I would not recommend Cupid Parasite at all, because that is full-on rom-com. It's so rom-com that after I finished playing it, I was like, I want a depressing game now. It's a change in scenery. So yeah, if you want something serious, I would not recommend it. I would also not recommend it to those who find bright colours a bit too much to their eyes. I have seen some people go, oh, why is it so bright? My head hurts because it's so bright. So yeah, I would not recommend it to those people either. What else? I guess I wouldn't recommend it to those looking for like an Eastern aesthetic, because it's, as I said, it's very Western. And I would also not recommend it to those who want like a more historical kind of sort of environment, you know, rather than the modern, like more, in my opinion, relatable type one. And also to those who want like an innocent, pure romance, because this game has a lot of steam to it. In Japan, it was rated Zero D, which means 17 and above. So there are scenes that I was like, oh, okay, that's a lot of skin color, you know, that sort of thing. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I would not recommend it either. Obviously, I love that. I love there being more like steam and more spice in there. So when I realized it's got a lot of like romance and steam in it, I was really happy, because I much prefer that in a game than not, as most of you probably are aware after watching, if you've watched my other reviews. So but yeah, I think that much covers it. Do comment below and ask me a question about it if you know, anything comes to mind, but I think that did cover it. Now I will give it a rating. So at the time I didn't actually feel like a rom-com, to be honest. I felt like something more serious, but I still would give it like a 4.5 to 4.8 out of 5. However, if I had felt like a rom-com and that's what I was like really into, I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5, which for me is quite, like, I struggle to say 100% or, you know, 5 out of 5, because I always think in the back of my mind that there must be something wrong with it. But this game was hands down a 5 out of 5 if I think about being in the mood for a rom-com. And looking back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was such a good game, you know. And it was one of the very few games where I didn't want it to end. Like, I honest to God didn't want it to end. I was just like, this is so good, this is so good. Oh no, it's coming to an end. Especially Alan's route. It was just so beautiful. And a quick general note, I'm not gonna lie, it did make me laugh, and perhaps I should have included this in the not recommended, is that I would not recommend it to those who are actually into Greek mythology. And the reason why I say this is I think in Japan they got like Greek mythology and Roman gods like all mixed up, because you have Cupid And then Cupid's father is Mars. He looks more like Zeus, but for some reason he's called Mars. And her mother is called Venus. I think she's supposed to be Aphrodite, but she's called Venus. I think they kind of got all the names and gods and stuff mixed up, so I would not, I definitely wouldn't rely on it for accuracy in terms of Greek mythology, because I think they kind of got a little bit confused there. But if you can brush that off, then yeah, you'll be fine. But it did make me laugh when I was playing. I was like, I swear that's Roman gods, not Greek gods. So, but yeah, that's my general sort of thoughts on it, really. I just really enjoyed it. I was able to relax when playing it, like really relax, and I've never experienced that in a game before, like ever. I have never felt so relaxed playing a game. So that was really good, and yeah, it was good. As I said, I was struggling to be objective, and this is probably the least objective review you'll come across. I did try my best in the who I would not recommend it bit on seeing what, like, it's not that things that I don't like, just things that people who I really can see not really feeling like playing it, which is fair enough because we all have different tastes. But anyway, I think that is it. Sorry, I'm just thinking, is there anything else to say, because I like the game so much. But you know what, I think you're fed up of listening to me ramble now, so I'm gonna leave it there. As always, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and hopefully I'll see you in another one of my videos. Bye!